Sales on the Victoria Real Estate Board are dropping. Now, I've been watching these figures every month this year and they keep on getting worse, and yet at the same time, I'm not sure there's cause for concern. Hi everyone, I'm Sean P. I'm a real estate agent working and living in Victoria, BC, and I make YouTube videos to try and help people understand how to better navigate our market. If this brings you value, please like and subscribe so you don't miss anything else that we have coming up, and you can use the link in the description to connect with me directly if you have plans involving real estate. Okay, so let's jump in. So what do I mean when I say that sales are down? Well, when we say this, what we tend to be looking at is year-over-year sales. And coming into the beginning of 2025, we were expecting this to be the year that things got back to normal and we were hoping to see a little bit of price growth. The truth is the past 2 years have been slower years. So throughout the second half of 2024, we were waiting for the market to respond to interest rate drops, which it finally did in November and December. In particular, in December, we saw a 28% boost in number of sales when compared with the previous year's December. So 28% growth is a significant number. That's a lot more sales taking place. And that's a very good indicator that buyer confidence is returning and we were set up for what we thought was going to be a really healthy spring. Well, everyone knows we received some political curveballs this spring, and essentially it pulled the rug out from our market, but it took a little while for the teeth to get in. In January, we still saw a boost in sales at 24% compared with the previous January, and we thought maybe it wouldn't be a major issue. Coming into February, that number turned to 12, and in March, we saw only a 4% boost over the previous year. This is a very clear pattern of sales being lower and lower every consecutive month. In April, that number turned into -5. So for the first time this year, we actually sold less homes than we did in the previous year. And again, the important thing to remember here is that 2024 was a slow year. So now we're actually seeing less homes trading than we did last year, which is absolutely a cause for concern. Okay, well, why is it so important that we watch this number, sales, every month? Well, sales is a really good indication of the vitality of a marketplace. If we see every month that fewer and fewer people are choosing to invest their money in a certain market, like a real estate market, well, it's indicative of them being scared off by something. It could be cost, it could be economic or political, it could be that there's something unattractive about the area. The good news is in Victoria that we're a really attractive place to live. So anytime that our market wanes, it's usually driven by economics or through something like what we're experiencing right now with all the political uncertainty that's going on in the world. The thing though is that a decline in sales doesn't necessarily interact directly with pricing. So then why does it matter? Well, the reality is that in any economic system, you have a balance between supply and demand. And when we have a decline in sales, a decline in demand, what it means is that there's a high probability that if the supply remains the same, the supply is going to increase, which will drive prices down. It's just the natural balancing act. Now, when we look at supply and demand, one of the ways that I like to measure it is in months of inventory. And this is a simple way to look at the absorption rate of a real estate market. Imagine this, if we stopped putting homes on the market today, months of inventory represents how many months it would take at our current rate of absorption of sales to clear out what's currently standing in the market. Now, when we look at this, anything under 4 months would represent a seller's market. In negotiations, it's going to feel like the seller has the upper hand. Between 4 and 6 months is considered balanced, and 6 months or more is typically considered a buyer's market. Now, throughout the course of the entirety of last year, we sat in a balanced market. And so far this year, despite the fact that we're having waning numbers in terms of sales, we are still sitting comfortably in a balanced market. In January, we saw 5.6 months of inventory. In February, we saw 5 months. On March, we saw 4.9. And in April, we saw 5.3. So the good news is we're still absorbing the same number of homes every month that we're putting on the market, which is why we might not be in for too bumpy of a ride. Now, here's the thing though. When we look at the sales figures this year, the first month that we actually saw a smaller number than the previous year was this month. So if this trend continues, we could be in trouble 3 months or 4 months down the road. Now, one thing that we can't ignore is that we just got through a federal election, and it's very common for real estate markets to cool and clam up before a federal election. A lot of people just want to see how things shake out before they decide where they're going to move their money. This is a natural response. So it'll be really fascinating over the coming months to see what happens with us now through this. With this said, Victoria tends to be a more stable and consistent market than some of the other larger markets in Canada. Markets like Vancouver, Toronto, and Calgary tend to be more volatile, they move quicker, and they have bigger highs and lows when compared with us. We are a lifestyle market, so people aren't so whimsical based on economics. We tend to be settled here, and frankly, there's a lot of money in Victoria, and that helps as well. Now, on the topic of Toronto, Calgary, and Vancouver, they have seen a pretty tough couple months. Toronto, Calgary, and Vancouver all showed negative sales numbers in April to the tune of between 22 and 23.5% on all three of them. So it's been a tough start to the year. I'm close to a lot of realtors out there, and all of them are saying it is like a battlefield trying to sell a property right now. So is that where we're going? I don't think we're going to be hit quite that hard, but if that's what's happening in our larger, more active markets, it's something that we shouldn't turn our head away from. So let's say that you have plans to buy or sell right now. What should you expect? Well, generally the condo market is pretty sluggish. We're not seeing fire sale prices, but it's taking time. And frankly, if you're shopping, that just means that you have the comfort of a nice selection to work with, and you'll be able to negotiate favorable terms when it comes to things like inspections and financing. Townhomes are middling. It really depends on the product and the location. If it's nice, it's moving very quickly, but if it's priced high, it's probably going to sit. The detached market under 1.3 in the core is moving really fast. So if you're shopping for a detached property, prepare to enter competition. And if you have one to sell, it's a great time to get it on the market. I probably wouldn't delay. Detached going a little bit higher, say up to 1.7, is still moving nicely, but it's a little bit less intense unless you're right downtown. And anything over the 2 to 2.5 million mark is moving a little bit slower, but again, prices aren't necessarily dropping, it's just taking some time. So what lies ahead? Well, first of all, I'm excited to see what the market looks like now that we've blown through our election cycle. I think there's a decent chance we might just get back to business and people will resume their normal activities, and this could all be a scare over nothing. The other thing that's going to weigh in on all of this is interest rates. If we see another couple drops, that could really help us. But the truth is, the Bank of Canada doesn't take the real estate market into the same level of weight in that decision as other economic factors. Now, politics are a wild card. We don't know what's going to come next, but generally it feels like things are going to be a little bit smoother than maybe they were before. With all of that said, if you're thinking about selling this spring, I would just go ahead and tear the Band-Aid off. And if you're planning on buying, you might be disappointed waiting if you think there's going to be a fire sale, because Victoria has a tendency to stick to its guns when it comes to pricing. Ultimately, our situation right now is one that we should be cautious, but I don't think there's a need to panic. If you're considering something and you want me to weigh in, I'd love to give you my perspective, and you can use the link in the description to grab some time with me. Aside from that, I'm always grateful that you took the time to watch, so please like and subscribe if you haven't already so other people find us, and thank you for taking time with me today. We'll catch you on the next one.